Paul taught me about being proud because I was Negro. I had always had this pride, this fierce, sterile almost kind of pride, because my grandmother had said, "You must be proud," but she never told me all the horror of her background. One didn't talk about it, you see, and then she died, and I was getting more and more in that middle-class trap with Negroes who might have a job who didn't speak about it also. I worked even at the time I was 16 and with Cecil, with organizations, but he never told me the reasons why I had a right to some of that pride, you see. But Paul is the first one who came to me and said, "Your grandmother was a fiery little woman who chased me off the street corners of Harlem, and she was this and she was that." I said, "Really? Nobody ever told me that." He said, "Why, she was a wonderful Negro woman because she wanted to help her people, and she felt she had a right to it. And she made this expression, noblesse oblige, mean being proud of her people." And I said, "But nobody ever said it." And he sat down for hours and he told me about Negro people and what, you know, I read it in some books and never learned it in school. They don't teach it in history books. I couldn't know anything unless I really had moved up by then from the South and had been with Negro people who were terrified, you know, and couldn't do anything about it. And he didn't talk to me as a symbol of a pretty Negro chick singing in a club. He talked to me about my heritage. And that's why I always loved him. And I didn't even know, he didn't even speak to me as a leader, quote, Negro leader. And so I grew to think then about all the areas of it. And Josh taught me about singing about it, and I couldn't sing, you know, and I was fighting that kind of invert chauvinism from white people who said, "Well, she can't sing the blues," you know, and so I felt embarrassed. But by 1966, I find more and more myself calling upon the things that Paul said to me, because it's as of now, except he is not our leader. We eat up our leaders, you know. History eats our leaders up. We eat them up. We drain them and we throw them out because everything moves so fast. But I don't think I could have felt the kind of pain I did and the kind of sense of recognition when I saw Alabama and hoses and dogs and children if I hadn't had Paul in my life.
Lena Horne talking about Paul Robeson. James Gavin, take it from there and also talk about her relationship with W.E.B. Du Bois and with Harry Belafonte.
Oh, that's a lot. My goodness. Her relationship with Paul Robeson ended up getting her in big trouble because, as you know, Paul Robeson was a dangerous man in the 1940s. And then in the late 40s, when he became a vocal enthusiast of the Soviet Union, to be near Paul Robeson in that brewing McCarthy era was very dangerous. Lena Horne was heavily involved in the 1940s with all of these human rights, progressive groups that were burgeoning all over Los Angeles, New York City, and she ended up blacklisted in 1950 in red channels. Now, she was by that time out of MGM, none too happily, and was a nightclub singer, so the blacklist didn't really affect her very much. But certainly she met Harry Belafonte in those years, and Harry Belafonte was another fierce spokesman, deeply committed to human rights. Mr. Du Bois, we know about. He was really the grandfather of them all in those days. Lena Horne was a very brave woman and is not given credit for the activism that she did in the 1940s. at a time when a lot of the black performers that she knew were simply accepting the conditions of the day as the way things were, and were afraid of rocking the boat and losing their jobs. And Lena never hesitated to speak her mind.
W.E.B. Du Bois?
Oh, a comment on W.E.B. Du Bois?
Yes.
She didn't, you know, he was more of a friend of her grandmother's than Lena. He is, generationally speaking, he came before Lena, and I know that she met him, but I don't think that she was a close friend of his. Her true mentors in the 1940s, politically speaking, were Robeson and Eleanor Roosevelt. Lena Horne adored Eleanor Roosevelt, and anything that these two people told her that they should sign or be a part of, she did.
And Harry Belafonte, long relationship with him, both political and artistic.
Long love-hate relationship that lasted on and off for about 30 years, and then by the early 1980s, these two strong egos finally exploded and clashed for the last time. But she and Harry were both beauties who suffered, I think, a similar identity crisis, in that their audiences were primarily white America, even upscale white America. And I think that both of them, for many years, had a big struggle in terms of how to define themselves as black artists. Harry, though, my God, I got to admire that guy for the risky political stands that he took throughout his life.
We're going to leave it there and then do a web exclusive for people to go to our website at democracynow.org to continue this conversation. James Gavin is the biographer of Lena Horne. His book, Stormy Weather, The Life of Lena Horne. That does it for our broadcast. Our website, democracynow.org. Democracy Now! Produced by Mike Berkshire, for Dokadu, Sarah Monte, Angela Comet. I'm Amy Goodman with the Sheriff of Dokadu. Thanks for joining us. This is